Before you quit your job, pause for a moment and ask yourself a deeper question. Are you leaving because God is leading you, or are you just tired of being uncomfortable? Because there's a difference between a divine transition and a desperate escape. And too many people walk away from the very ground God gave them to multiply, all because they mistook frustration for a sign. Let's be clear, wanting more is not wrong. Feeling called to something greater is not rebellion, it's revelation. But how you leave matters just as much as why you leave. If you exit without vision, without strategy, without stewardship, you're not stepping into purpose, you're stepping into a problem dressed up as freedom. And the enemy would love nothing more than to get you to abandon your seed before it ever becomes your harvest. This isn't just about quitting a job, it's about unlocking your next level the right way. Because when you understand how God uses seasons, how he hides purpose in pressure, and how multiplication precedes promotion, you'll realize you weren't meant to run, you were meant to rise. Your job is not your final destination, it is your starting point. It is not your promised land, it's your Egypt. And while you might not like being there, God will often use places of discomfort to grow discipline, shape character, and develop the mindset necessary to handle the weight of the assignment waiting for you. Your current job is not your harvest, it's your seed. And how you handle the seed determines whether you ever see the harvest. You see, too many people are praying for overflow, for freedom, for wealth, for impact, but they're mismanaging the job they've already been given. That job, as mundane or frustrating as it may seem, is the divine mechanism God is using to equip you for more. But if you despise the seed, you'll never qualify for the orchard. God is strategic. He doesn't waste anything. That paycheck you earn isn't just paying bills, it's potential being handed to you week after week. But if your mindset is stuck on surviving rather than sowing, you'll consume everything and have nothing left to build with. It's like getting apple seeds and eating them because you're hungry, not realizing they were meant to plant an orchard that could feed you for generations. Many people treat their jobs like prison sentences when in fact they're preparation centers. You don't like the hours. Good. Develop time mastery. You don't like your boss. Good. Learn leadership under pressure. You're frustrated by limited income. Perfect. That pressure will drive your creativity. The issue is never just the job. The issue is how you see it. And until you see it as a seed, you'll keep wishing for harvests you haven't planted for. Think about this, a seed never looks like the tree it will become. It's small, it's unimpressive, it's buried. And that's how many people feel at their jobs, overlooked, buried under routine, stuck doing what feels insignificant. But God doesn't grow trees in the spotlight. He grows them underground. So if you feel hidden, you're right on schedule. But here's the question. What are you doing with the money from your job? Are you consuming it all on liabilities and instant gratification? Or are you multiplying it, investing it, using it to develop skills, buy books, take courses, build a side business, or sow into something greater? Because a seed has one job, to multiply. And a job gives you a consistent opportunity to take your income and turn it into increase. This isn't just about money either. It's about discipline. Your job teaches you consistency. It teaches you how to work even when you don't feel like it. It teaches you how to serve. And if you can't show up on time for someone else's vision, how do you expect God to trust you with your own? So many people are waiting for a calling when they haven't even been faithful in their current assignment. They want to be paid for their passion, but they've never mastered perseverance. They want freedom, but haven't developed the responsibility that freedom demands. A job is not a curse. It's a classroom. And how you show up in that classroom determines whether you graduate into the next level of your purpose. You might say, but I hate my job. And that may be true. But you don't have to love where you are to honor it. You don't have to love your boss to learn from the environment. You don't have to love the paycheck to sow it wisely. Immature people want every environment to feel good. Mature people extract value from every season, especially the uncomfortable ones. If you don't treat the seed right, don't expect the harvest to come. God watches how you handle your 9 to 5 to determine whether you're ready for your 5 to 9 dream. If you're complaining on the clock, procrastinating on tasks, showing up late and checking out early, don't be surprised when doors remain closed. Favor follows faithfulness. And faithfulness starts with what's already in your hand, not what you're dreaming about holding. Your job is the testing ground. It's the boot camp for discipline, stewardship, and patience. It's where you learn to honor structure, submit to authority, and build integrity when nobody's watching. And when you pass those tests, when you treat your job like a gift instead of a curse, when you multiply what looks like a little, you position yourself for promotion, not just from your employer, but from God. Don't be so eager to escape that you forget to listen. Don't be so consumed with getting out that you never ask why you're still in. The truth is, movement without direction is not progress. It's confusion. And in the kingdom, we don't move just because we're uncomfortable. We move because we've been commissioned. If you walk away from your job, your position, or your place of provision without a kingdom assignment, you're not walking by faith. You're walking in fantasy. You've replaced God's timing with your own timeline, and that's a dangerous trade. We live in a generation that's mastered quitting but forgotten purpose. People are leaving jobs, relationships, churches, and responsibilities, calling it alignment when really it's avoidance. They want the reward of faith without the responsibility of obedience. But let me be clear, faith doesn't mean jumping without preparation. Faith is not recklessness with religious language. Faith is responding to God's voice with precision. When God moves people, he always moves with purpose. Look through Scripture. Nobody left their post without a word. Moses didn't leave Pharaoh's house until he heard from God at the burning bush. Abraham didn't step into the unknown until God said, "Go to a land I will show you." David didn't ascend to kingship without years of preparation in the fields and caves. Every departure had a divine directive attached to it. And if you're trying to step into your next without one, you're stepping into chaos. There's a difference between being released and being restless. Restlessness makes you impulsive. It makes you despise the place where God still has you in development. You start fantasizing about freedom without recognizing that freedom without structure leads to destruction. When you leave a job because you're tired, annoyed, or over it, and not because God has given you a new assignment, you're not leveling up, you're running in circles. Purpose is not about preference. It's about obedience. Just because something is hard doesn't mean it's not holy. And just because it's frustrating doesn't mean it's finished. God will often keep you in a place longer than you want to be there so he can extract something from you you didn't even know was inside you. There's still oil in that place, and you're trying to quit before the press is complete. Now hear me clearly. I'm not saying God wants you to stay in a toxic environment forever. But I am saying that God is more interested in your transformation than your temporary comfort. If he hasn't released you, it's because there's something you still need to learn, gain, or complete. Quitting prematurely might feel freeing in the moment, but it can cost you years of delayed destiny if you walk out without strategy. The kingdom doesn't reward quitting. It rewards completing. Paul said, "I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race." Not started the race, not got tired halfway, but finished. That means you don't leave where God placed you until he assigns you somewhere else. And when he does it with clarity, peace, and provision. Ask yourself this: what am I stepping into? Not just what you're walking away from. People spend so much time ranting about why they're done with something, but they can't articulate what God is leading them toward. If you can't define your next step, you're not being led, you're being lured by frustration. And frustration is a poor compass for destiny. You don't need to fantasize about freedom. You need a kingdom assignment that gives meaning to your movement. That's the difference between starting a business and birthing a mission. That's the difference between freelancing and walking in calling. One is based on circumstances, the other is born in revelation. So before you resign, pause, fast, pray, seek counsel. Ask God, is this the end of a season or just the beginning of a lesson? Because if you leave out of emotion instead of assignment, you'll find yourself in a new place with the same problems, only now without the covering you once had. In the kingdom, we don't just walk out. We get sent. We don't just chase income. We follow instruction. We don't just seek comfort. We seek purpose. So don't let a temporary frustration rob you of a permanent assignment. You were not created to wander. You were created to walk in divine order, and order starts with clarity. You were not created to survive. You were created to multiply. And the reason so many people stay stuck in average, living paycheck to paycheck, never breaking into the life of purpose and impact they were called to, is because they're trapped in employee thinking. This is not about whether you have a job or run a business. This is about how you think. You can sit in a cubicle with a CEO mindset, or you can own a company and still think like a worker. The mindset determines the motion. Employee thinking is rooted in survival. It's transactional. You trade your time for money. You do what you're told, collect the check, and go home. There's nothing inherently wrong with that until you start believing that's all you were made for. You get comfortable with enough and never pursue more. And I'm not talking about more stuff. I'm talking about more purpose, more impact, more legacy. Employee thinking limits you to what someone else decides you're worth. And when you surrender your value to a system that was never built for your calling, you shrink your capacity to walk in destiny. God didn't wire you for wages. He wired you for wealth. And wealth isn't just money, it's multiplication. It's taking what you have and expanding it. Employee thinking looks at a job and says, how many hours do I have to work? Kingdom thinking looks at a problem and says, how can I create value that solves this for others and multiplies income for myself? One waits for instructions. The other creates solutions. When you're stuck in employee thinking, your goals become shallow. I just want a raise. I just want Fridays off. I just want a little more job security. But purpose can't be contained in comfort. Destiny doesn't live in the confines of a salary band. If your income is capped by someone else's system, so is your impact, unless you shift your thinking. Here's the danger. Employee thinking is not just about a job, it's about dependency. You depend on a check instead of depending on the creator who gave you the power to create wealth. The moment your confidence is in the paycheck and not in your purpose, you've already sold your destiny short. And many people will stay in bondage their entire lives because the benefits feel better than the burden of building something new. But comfort is often the camouflage of captivity. Now, I'm not saying quit your job today. I'm saying upgrade your mindset while you're there. Stop asking, what can I get away with? And start asking, what can I learn here that prepares me for more? Use the job to fund your vision. Don't let the job become your vision. Employee thinking says, I hope they give me a raise. Kingdom thinking says, how can I increase my skills, serve more people, solve bigger problems, and position myself to earn based on value instead of hours? You see, God gives people assignments, not salaries. But if you're always chasing a check, you'll miss the instruction. And the instruction is where the increase lies. In the Bible, the widow wasn't told to find a better paying job. She was told to gather vessels and pour oil. That's multiplication. That's wealth mindset. That's kingdom thinking. A paycheck mindset will always make you trade time for money. But your time is limited. Your value, your creativity, your problem-solving ability, those are unlimited. That's where real wealth is born. But employee thinking will convince you to settle for predictability over possibility. It'll have you doubting your gifts, questioning your ideas, and shrinking every time opportunity knocks because you're trained to play it safe. God is not calling you to play it safe. He's calling you to steward the gifts he gave you and multiply them. He's calling you to transform the way you think about provision, about work, about impact. Your destiny is too expensive to be funded by a paycheck alone. You need purpose, strategy, faith, and a mindset that sees beyond the next direct deposit. Until you break free from employee thinking, you'll keep building other people's dreams while yours die in the hallway of fear and indecision. Don't let the fear of losing a paycheck keep you from stepping into the abundance that was already written into your purpose. Most people think the solution to their frustration is escape. I just need to get out of this job. If I could quit tomorrow, I'd be free. But freedom isn't found in leaving. It's found in entering into clarity, entering into purpose, entering into a strategy that aligns your skills, your calling, and your capacity to create wealth. You don't need a job exit plan. You need a wealth entry strategy. Because escaping something without entering something better is not deliverance, it's delay. If your entire focus is on getting away from what you don't want, you'll never build what you actually need. You'll spend your energy running from discomfort instead of designing your future. And the truth is, escape is emotional. But strategy is spiritual. Strategy comes from vision. Strategy comes from asking God not just, how do I get out, but what am I being called into? Because it's not enough to just leave a paycheck. You have to step into purpose. The biggest mistake people make when they want to leave their job is thinking that passion is enough. They feel called, they feel gifted, they want freedom, but they have no plan. And when you step into business or entrepreneurship without a clear wealth strategy, all you've done is trade one form of bondage for another. Only this time, there's no paycheck to fall back on. There's no employer covering your mistakes. There's just you, your faith, and whatever preparation you did or didn't do before you made the leap. This is why strategy is not optional. It's essential. You need to map out your entry into wealth the same way military operations are planned before a mission, with precision, with foresight, and with understanding of risk, responsibility, and reward. Because high-income impact is not an accident, it's engineered. It's built by identifying a problem you can solve, packaging your expertise into a solution, and building systems that allow your value to be multiplied in the marketplace. Let's be clear, wealth is not just about money. It's about capacity. It's about understanding how to create, sustain, and multiply value. And value is what people pay for. So if you want to step into wealth, you don't just need a vision board, you need an offer. What problem can you solve that people will pay for? What transformation can you provide that is worth high ticket pricing? If you don't know the answer, you're not ready to exit, you're still in discovery mode. A wealth entry strategy means you've identified not only where you're going, but how you'll fund the journey. That could mean starting a consulting business while you're still employed. It could mean launching a product, building a service, growing your brand, or monetizing your knowledge. But it has to be more than an idea. It has to be executable. It has to have structure. Vision with no structure is fantasy. And God is not the author of fantasy. He is the author of faith-driven strategy. You see, God doesn't promote escape artists. He promotes stewards. People who can take a small seed and multiply it. People who don't just leave jobs, but build movements. People who don't just talk about entrepreneurship, but execute with excellence. Because when you step into purpose with strategy, your life becomes a platform for kingdom impact. You're not just getting paid. You're making a difference, solving real problems, and creating a life that honors the calling you carry. Don't fall for the cultural lie that quitting your job makes you free. What makes you free is knowing exactly what you're stepping into and having the systems and skills to sustain it. A job exit is a moment. A wealth strategy is a lifestyle. One gives you a break. The other builds your legacy. So instead of obsessing over the day you turn in your resignation letter, start obsessing over the plan that will position you to never need one again. Because your goal shouldn't be to leave the job. Your goal should be to step into overflow, to move with intentionality into something that multiplies, scales, and honors both your divine design and your economic reality. You don't need to run. You need to build. And when the structure is strong, the transition isn't chaotic. It's calculated. We often ask God to show us our purpose, but we overlook the fact that He often hides purpose inside of problems. Not problems we read about, not someone else's crisis, but our own, the stress, frustration, and pressure we face every day at that job we're begging to leave. That job might feel like a prison, but in reality, it could be your training ground, your testing season, the very place where your entrepreneurial breakthrough is being formed. God is not random. He places us in environments not to punish us, but to prepare us. And while we're complaining about incompetent managers, toxic co-workers, and dead-end tasks, God is using those very frustrations to expose what He's planted inside of us. Your irritation might be the evidence of your innovation waiting to emerge. That system you can't stand, you were born to improve. That chaos you deal with every day, you were designed to bring structure to it. That communication breakdown, that drives you crazy. You're the solution with the leadership ability to fix it. But if you quit too soon, you'll miss the clues. Every entrepreneur who built something transformational can point back to a season where the problems around them revealed the purpose within them. They didn't wake up with a perfect plan. They woke up to dysfunction, saw the gap, and decided to become the bridge. But they only saw it because they stayed long enough to observe the need. You can't innovate what you're always trying to escape. And you'll never build legacy running from training. See, God's process doesn't always look spiritual. Sometimes it looks like spreadsheets and customer complaints. Sometimes it looks like being overlooked at the office while you work twice as hard. Sometimes it looks like being given tasks nobody else wants, not because God forgot you, but because He's developing something in you. Excellence, endurance, insight, discernment, strategy. These are the very things you'll need when you step into your own business. And your job is the forge where they're being refined. Think about Moses. Before he ever led people out of Egypt, he spent years tending sheep in the wilderness. That looked like a detour, but it was training. Think about Joseph. Before he became second in command over Egypt, he managed another man's prison. That looked like punishment, but it was preparation. David didn't go straight from oil on his head to the throne. He went back to the fields. God trains kings in places nobody respects. Why? Because if you can be faithful there, you'll be fruitful anywhere. The same is true for you. That job isn't a delay, it's divine development. The pressure, the patterns, the pain, it's not random, it's revealing. And the moment you stop complaining and start paying attention, you'll begin to recognize that every dysfunction you experience at work is a potential business idea waiting to be born. Every time you say, this could be done better, you're getting closer to your blueprint. Every time you think, this isn't right, you're being given a clue to what you're called to make right. But here's the key, you have to stay long enough to extract the wisdom. You can't learn from what you resent. You can't grow from what you rush to escape. If you keep quitting every time it gets uncomfortable, you'll never finish the course that qualifies you for your next level. God doesn't waste seasons. We do when we refuse to see his hand in what looks like hardship. Entrepreneurship is not about running from problems, it's about solving them. And if you can't solve them as an employee, you won't succeed as a business owner, because the problems only get bigger when you're the one in charge. But if you embrace the current moment as training, if you see your job not just as a paycheck but as a prototype, you'll begin to extract purpose from pain, strategy from stress, and calling from chaos. What if the thing you hate most about your job is the exact area God wants you to dominate in your business? What if he's letting you experience the problem up close so you'll have first-hand authority when you step out to fix it? What if your business is supposed to be the solution to the very frustration you're living through right now? Purpose doesn't fall out of the sky. It's revealed in the fire. It's carved out in the pressure. It's refined in the problems you didn't ask for, but were divinely assigned to overcome. So before you walk away from that job, ask yourself, what is God showing me through this? What is he sharpening? What solution is he birthing in me? Because when you stop looking at your job as punishment and start seeing it as preparation, everything changes. You stop escaping and start evolving. And that's when purpose rises from the problems and turns your 9 to 5 into the seedbed for your next level calling. There's a divine order to increase, and God never promotes waste. He's not in the business of giving you more when you haven't multiplied what you already have. That job you're praying to leave, it's not your final destination, but it is your current provision. And before you walk away from provision, heaven expects you to do something powerful with it. Multiply. You don't abandon what's feeding you. You multiply it until it creates overflow, until what used to sustain you now funds your next season. The mindset of escape says, I'm tired, I'm done, I need out. But the mindset of stewardship says, let me take what I've got and turn it into more. That's how the kingdom works. God is looking for multipliers, not quitters. Jesus taught this principle over and over. Remember the parable of the talents. The servant who buried his 1 talent didn't get sympathy. He got rebuked. Why? Because he played it safe with provision instead of multiplying it into something that could be used. That's how a lot of people treat their jobs. They clock in, do the minimum, complain, and dream of leaving. But they never ask, how can I take what I'm earning, learning, and experiencing here and multiply it? Before you leave, multiply your skills. Don't just show up, level up, learn the systems, study the strategies, master the customer service, pay attention to what works and what doesn't. Take mental notes, observe how money moves. Understand how leadership fails and succeeds. You think you're just working a job, but God is giving you a front row seat to your future if you'll treat it like a classroom instead of a cage. Before you leave, multiply your income. That paycheck isn't the ceiling, it's the seed. Are you using it to buy liabilities or to build something lasting? Are you spending it to escape your stress, or are you investing it to fund your next? Start that side hustle. Buy that course. Build that brand. Pay down that debt. Stack that capital. Don't leave your job broke and bitter. Leave resourced and ready. Before you leave, multiply your influence. Build relationships. Gain trust. Establish a reputation for excellence. Be the person they remember. Why? Because your future clients, partners, or referrals might be sitting in the same office you're praying to escape. You never know who's watching and how God may use the connections from your job to unlock doors in your business. Your workplace isn't just a paycheck. It's a platform. Before you leave, multiply your discipline. Use the job to strengthen your ability to stay consistent, to do what you said you would do, to show up even when you're tired. because entrepreneurship will test every ounce of discipline you have. If you can't be faithful with someone else's vision, you won't be fruitful in your own. And God is watching how you handle the little before he releases the much. Overflow isn't magic, it's multiplication. It's taking what looks like just enough and handling it with wisdom, diligence, and vision until it becomes more than enough. That's what the widow did with her oil. That's what the disciples did with the fish and loaves. That's what Joseph did with Pharaoh's resources. And that's what you must do with the job you have right now. Not flee from it, but fruitfully multiply it. Leaving too soon is often a symptom of an untrained mind, because it takes maturity to multiply under pressure. Anybody can quit, anybody can vent, but it takes strategy, faith, and patience to turn provision into overflow. God's not asking you to stay stuck forever. He's asking you to maximize what you have until you're ready to handle more. So instead of scrolling for an escape plan, sit down with your numbers. Look at your gifts. Take inventory of your opportunities. What can you create now that brings in income beyond your job? What can you build in the evenings that multiplies your mornings? How can you take what you've learned on someone else's dime and turn it into your own engine for overflow? You were never meant to walk away empty. You were meant to walk away empowered. That means multiplying the money, the momentum, and the mastery you gained in one season and using it to dominate in the next. Because when you multiply before you leave, you don't have to chase income. You carry increase. If you're thinking about quitting your job, pause, not out of fear, but out of revelation. Because what looks like a limitation might be the very launchpad God is using to prepare you for overflow. You weren't meant to just escape, you were meant to elevate. That job is not your identity, it's not your harvest, but it is your seed. And God is watching what you do with the seed before he releases the next season of increase. Don't walk out of one season broke, bitter and unprepared, calling it faith when it was really frustration. Instead, walk out like a multiplier full of wisdom, armed with a strategy, aligned with purpose, and already operating in overflow before the resignation letter hits the desk. You don't need just boldness to leave. You need clarity to build. You don't need a job exit. You need a wealth entry strategy. So stay planted until the fruit starts multiplying. Don't just make a move, make it count. Because when your thinking shifts from escape to stewardship, from employee to entrepreneur, from paycheck to purpose, that's when the real freedom begins.